When you hear the words renewable energy, it might bring to mind things like sustainability, helping the environment, and taking action against climate change. It brings those things to mind for me too, but through my research, these associations have gotten a little more complicated. My name is Elena Lauder, and I'm a geography PhD student at the University of Arizona, and I study the politics of renewable energy. My research takes place in Chile because the country has emerged as a world leader on renewable energy development. Since 2015, they've quadrupled their renewable energy, and the Chilean government has even made the goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. Global media like the New York Times, Bloomberg Weekly, and the Washington Post like to talk about Chile's energy revolution, even calling them the Saudi Arabia of renewables. The epicenter of Chile's renewable energy development is in the Atacama Desert in the northern part of the country. This area is vast, flat, and dry, making it perfect for wind and solar. It's so dry, in fact, that there are parts that have never seen a drop of rain in recorded human history. Vast areas of the pastel landscape are now flooded in a sea of black solar panels and wind towers extending in neat rows for miles. You see a lot of statistics about the dollars invested in Chile's renewable energy, or megawatts of energy generated from wind and solar. But let me contextualize Chile's energy revolution a little bit. The Atacama Desert supplies nearly a third of the world's copper. It's home to some of the largest open pit copper mines in the world, including Chuquicamata, a gouge 3 miles long and a half a mile deep. When you're standing at the top, you can't see to the bottom. There's also been The area also recently has become an epicenter of lithium harvesting. The baby blue and teal brine ponds of lithium provide the key ingredient for batteries that help us run things like Teslas and other electric vehicles. Finally, there are growing plans for the production of green hydrogen in the region. This is a new fuel where hydrogen gas is produced using energy from wind and solar. It can then be exported or consumed nationally as a fuel for industrial processes like making iron, or for use in heavy machinery like big mining trucks. And when it's burned, it has much lower emissions than fossil fuels. So between the renewable energy, the lithium, the copper, and the green hydrogen, the Atacama is often portrayed by politicians and business leaders as the heart of the future of the country's new green economy. So that's a little bit about the economy and the industry there. Now I'm going to talk about the human side. Even though it's sometimes talked about like it's a blank slate, the Atacama Desert is home to many rural communities, including indigenous groups who have lived in the desert and high plains for thousands of years. These various communities who identify as Quechua, Licantay, and Aymara have complex relationships with the industry in the area. While some communities negotiate with mining and lithium companies, accepting money or services like getting a school built or a church, others protest the extractive activities based on claims of indigenous environmental views and concerns over water, land, or pollution. You can see here a picture of a billboard saying, "Do I drink lithium? Do I eat copper? Let's protect the territory." So the relationship between the communities, the mining, the lithium, and the energy companies is quite complex. Furthermore, despite being home to mineral riches, the cities of the Atacama region, like Antofagasta and Calama, actually have high levels of poverty and pollution associated with the heavy industry. The majority of the copper mining and lithium harvesting is carried out by international companies who produce these products for global markets. While these big industries are an important source of revenue for the country, levels of poverty and pollution are high in the desert. For example, in the capital city of Antofagasta, there's an industrial port facility right in the middle of town where discarded earth materials from the mining process are sorted, leaving a polluting dust in the air, which is dangerous for human health. In 2015, there was a campaign to stop the facility from being built called Este Polvo Te Mata, or This Dust Kills You. But the facility was built anyway. So while the Atacama is the green heartbeat of the Chile's new future, we have to ask, will the renewable energy development in the area bring benefits to local people, or simply allow big industries to go green? And what exactly does that even mean? So far, my research shows that renewable energy largely flows to the big mines. So that doesn't sound too great. But a quick condemnation would be too easy. Electric cars, which are a key proposal for decarbonizing in places like the US, require enormous amounts of copper. As renewable energy becomes standard around the world, we also need lithium-ion batteries for storage because renewables don't produce 24/7 like fossil fuels can. The point is that the best efforts for sustainability require the raw materials that come from the Atacama. So my dissertation research tries to look at this tension. How is the energy revolution happening? Who does it benefit and who gets to decide? So I do this in two ways. One is by looking at the governance. And by governance, I mean which types of actors, is it governments, markets, private corporations, get to dictate the way that renewable energy is being developed. Specifically, I analyze policies and regulations at the national scale and do interviews with policymakers, investors, energy CEOs, and environmental groups. Secondly, I will do two community case studies in the Atacama Desert. One is in Taltal, where a conglomeration of international energy companies are building the country's largest wind farm. In my case study, I will live in Taltal, interview local politicians, community leaders, activists, and study how projects get funded, permitted, and built. The second is Calama, a center of Chile's mining industry, as well as a swarm of new renewable energy projects. There again, I will conduct interviews and gather the details on how new projects get built and what they mean for the local community. In my work, I try to connect the dots between changes at the local level with policies at the national level and the global companies and investments that hold a lot of power in the region, and ultimately tie remote places in the Atacama to the Teslas parked right here in Tucson. So in my work, I talk to the indigenous community leader who's concerned about local development and jobs and sovereignty. I talk to mining executives who are trying to green their practices. I talk to the private sector investors and energy generators who are trying to develop new projects and secure flows of capital and protect their investments. And I talk to political leaders who are trying to accomplish the ambitious goal of carbon neutrality while also balancing demands for a more inclusive political and economic model. At the end of the day, these tensions around how we decarbonize and who gets to decide are at the heart of addressing both climate change and building a more just world. This work is important because renewable energy development is indeed urgent. However, if we don't look at the bigger systems it's a part of, we risk having green solutions deliver big benefits to big companies and consumers in the global north, maybe leaving scarce benefits behind, as well as continued toll on the environment in the global south, in places like the Atacama Desert. Thank you very much.